I grew up in Flint, Michigan during the 60s, and as a child, I can remember the civil rights movement. I remember our family huddling around our small black and white TV, and we'd watch all of the things that were going on in Alabama and Mississippi. Some of my older cousins were active in the movement, and each week we would have a large Sunday dinner with the extended family, and they would come back and tell us about all of the things that they had seen and done. As a child of about 8 or 9 years old, I always wanted to grow up and be a part of the movement, but by the time I became of age, it was all over. All of the marching was done. I always felt left out, that I didn't get a chance to participate in the civil rights movement. But little did I know that God had another plan for me as a computer instructor and database developer. But even then, it bothered me that I didn't see many people of color in my classes. That is when journalist Dr. John Ray introduced me to Dr. Joel Dudley Sr. and Dr. Eunice Dudley of Dudley Products, who had been mentored by the millionaire S.B. Fuller. Through Dr. Dudley, I was introduced to Dr. Lafayette Jones, past Vice President of Marketing for John H. Johnson of Johnson Publishing, and his wife, Sandra Miller Jones, who was a Vice President at Quaker Oats, and together they created SMSI, a national marketing firm. Dr. George C. Frazier of FrazierNet and the Power Networking Conference, Dr. Jackie Mayfield of ComproTax, founder of the largest Black-owned income tax service, and even billionaire Michael B. Roberts. They all believe that the way to close the wealth gap is through entrepreneurship, because we as a people had to overcome slavery, and secondly, obtain our civil rights to be able to eat in any restaurant or stay at any hotel that we wanted. But the third piece is economic equality. And now I am also convinced that we must become entrepreneurs, and to do so we must embrace technology and a strategy of global networking. That is why I created Every.Black, to use my vast experience as a computer instructor to teach entrepreneurs how to use technology and artificial intelligence in business. Every.Black members are listed in our online website directory, promoted in our digital newsletter, on our social media, and on our podcast. And we also conduct weekly virtual mastermind meetings where we read positive books, learn from the experts, while networking with like-minded individuals from around the world, educating them about every aspect of becoming a successful entrepreneur. That is what Every.Black is all about. Just go to www.every.black to take the AI and tech classes you need, to register for our mastermind meetings, and to join the Every.Black family. Visit us at www.every.black and sign up today. Just go to Every.Black, every.black. No .com, no .net. Just Every.Black. .black is the new .com.
Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the 2026 Every.Black Financial Summit. My name is DeAndre Ford, and I'll be your host and moderator for today's summit. We are excited and honored that you chose to spend part of your Saturday with us as we come together to learn, grow, and have important conversations around financial literacy, wealth building, entrepreneurship, investing, insurance, real estate, taxes, and long-term financial freedom. This year's theme is money that makes sense, practical wealth strategies for today's entrepreneur. And I believe that theme is on the right time today. It's right on time. So many people are working hard every day, building businesses, taking care of family, and trying to create stability and legacy. But many still have questions about money, ownership, investing, retirement, protection, and how to truly build wealth intentionally. Today is about education. Today is about empowerment. And today is about giving you access to professionals and entrepreneurs who are doing the work and are willing to share real knowledge and practical strategies. Over the next couple of hours, you're going to hear from an amazing lineup of speakers covering topics including life insurance, wealth building, market investing and compound interest, business growth and taxes, financial trauma and money habits, and real estate investing, ownership, and legacy planning. So I encourage everyone to stay engaged, take some notes, ask questions. You can put them in the chat at the end of the summit. We're going to have everybody come back and answer those questions. And, I encourage everyone just stay engaged, take notes, ask those questions during the panel discussion, and connect with the speakers and the attendees that are in the chat. And again, welcome to the Every.Black Financial Summit for 2026. We appreciate you here, and we're looking forward to an impactful and empowering experience. Now, let's get started. Now, our very first speaker that we have is Shannon Brooks. Shannon Brooks is a financial services specialist and the owner of Brooks and Associates, LLC. The presentation title is From Poverty to Prosperity, Bridging the Gap Through the Power of Life Insurance. So Shannon Brooks, let's go from poverty to prosperity. Let's go.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. Yes, once again, my name is Shannon Brooks. I'm located here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Once again, the title of my business is Brooks and Associates LLC. And yes, I am a financial services specialist. So what I want to do is, before I get started, I always try to start off with my why. Why do I do what I do? What made me decide to do what I do? So can we go back in time just for a second? And I just want to give you all, just like I said, a brief little, nugget of where I come from. And like I said, once again, my why. Growing up, I came up, born in 1976. So I came up in a multi-generational home where it included my great-grandparents, my grandmother, my mother, and myself. And I remember as a little girl riding around in the living room on my little tricycle. And I used to love to ride that thing. But I just remember on Fridays, I don't know if it was every Friday or what, but I just remember on Fridays, there was this white guy that used to come by the house. And I remember he was tall, he had red hair, he drove a brown car. And when he came by, he would always give me this little red sucker every time he saw me. And I used to get so excited whenever I saw this white man coming because he was giving me that red sucker. But what he was also doing was coming in talking to my great grandmother. And back in the day, a child stayed in their place. So I wasn't able to really go up and just see what all they were talking about or what was going on. But I remember watching my great grandmother, her nickname was Polly. I remember Polly going in her purse and getting out this little brown envelope. And whenever she would get out this little brown envelope, she would take money out of it and she would give it to this white man. And I guess he was writing something down or whatever. I'm assuming it was the receipt. He gave the receipt back to her and then he went on about his way. And I just remember this happening, like I said, on Fridays, once again, when I was a little girl. Well, let's fast forward some. So whenever it came time to when my great grandmother and well, my great grandparents, I should say, whenever it came time for them to go ahead and transition when they passed away, I just remember in my household, everything was taken care of. My family wasn't out here begging or borrowing anything like that from anybody. Everything was a smooth transition. And even back then, I didn't know what that was all about and where this money was coming from. But then as I got older, I realized that white man that was coming through was the insurance man. And he was making sure that my family was taken care of. My great grandmother made sure that she left that legacy of making sure that everybody in her household was going to be taken care of. So my great grandparents and my grandmother, thank goodness my mother is still here, but my great grandparents and my grandmother, they were able to pass away and literally say they could rest in peace because they didn't leave any debt and we were not sitting around begging and borrowing. So with that, like I said, let's go up a little bit further. Whenever I got older And I started to work and I started getting around other people. People didn't look like me. And I never understood why they lived the lifestyle that they were living. And I'm like, how in the world are y'all doing that? I feel like I go to work every day and I'm just broke. But I'm out here working with people who they make the same amount of money that I do, but they live in a totally different lifestyle. When I finally sat down and asked, those other people that don't look like me, how are you doing this? And they said, it's through the power of life insurance. And at that moment, everything started coming together. Like I started to connect the dots, like my great grandmother did what she had to do back then. And now I need to do what I need to do to make sure that I can start to be the change that I want to see through the power of life insurance. So I became a life insurance agent. And my biggest thing that I wanted to be able to do is to be able to go back to the places that resonate with me, AKA the hood, because yes, I am from the hood, and to be able to change the outcome, change the financial outcome, that people seem to, sometimes be, in that poverty, kind of mindset, or sometimes you're just in poverty in general because of generational curses. So once again, when finally got started, I was like, okay, let's go out here and let's help people go from poverty to prosperity. And so that's what I want to talk about today with you all. How do we go from poverty to prosperity through the power of life insurance? So one thing about life insurance is that a lot of times there's a lot of myths that come with it, especially when it comes down to our people. Most of the times, and I'm not saying everybody, most of the time, most people think that life insurance is just about being able to say, I want to be put away nice. I don't know how, language is in your household, but in my household, it's always, let me have enough life insurance so therefore you can put me away and put me away nice. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I want people to understand is that there's so much more that life insurance can do and be for you as far as your family, your community, your church, or whoever. It's so much more that it can do and so much more than it can be. So what I want to do today is just take just a little time just to give an explanation of just what each type of insurance is about, the good, the bad, and the ugly with it, because I always say, what the big print giveth, the little print taketh away. And I'm always big on talking about that little print when it comes down to insurance. So, like I said, let's go ahead and get started, okay? So there's three types that I'm going to talk about today, okay? The first type is called term. And a lot of times, I'm just going to be honest, especially when it comes down to our people, at least this is what I have experienced. A lot of people don't like term. And I get it. Don't get me wrong. I get it. Because if, let's give a little bit of, nugget of knowledge when it come down to, how we are as people. See, back in the day, we were not taught about term. We were taught about whole life. Because see, back then, whenever, insurance was coming about, it was white people that were getting the term to be able to use it to transfer wealth when they passed away. We weren't allowed to do that. We were only allowed to get $10,000 in whole life coverage. And we couldn't do where we could stack it like how we can do now. No, you could only have one policy. And even in that policy, we also had to use that policy sometimes for the bank with the cash value that was included with it because we weren't allowed to go and get a loan or get a bank account or what have you. So that's why in our households and and a lot of times in our generations, whole life is what people prefer. But it wasn't until the Civil Rights Act of 1964 where they had to amend that, where both black, white, and anybody else, if they wanted to get whatever type of insurance they wanted, they could. But how do you hide things from us? Put it in a book. Most of us didn't know that. So that's why a lot of times in our communities, we prefer whole life and not term. But like I was saying before, when it come down to term, term is not a bad thing if you know what to do with it. Term is good for those who are looking at, let's say if you have a mortgage, if you have a business, if you have children, if you have a lot of overhead or what have you. It is great for those who say, okay, over this period of time, I want to make sure that if something happens to me during this time where my income is needed the most, that when I pass away, that this policy right here can actually go and come into effect and it can transfer the wealth over to my beneficiaries, whether that's, an individual, whether that's a trust, whether that's a business, whoever it is that, you decide to have as your beneficiary. That is who will be able to take that money and to be able to do whatever needs to be done so that, yes, you will be missed, but your money will not be missed. It will still be there to kind of keep going and doing the things that it needs to do. It's the least, expensive policy that's out there, but it's the least expensive because it doesn't build any cash value. You can normally get it from anywhere from 10 years up to 35 years. I think some companies even allow 40 years now, depending upon how young you are. But it is a great tool to be able to have, once again, if you are looking for something that does not cost a lot of money and you're looking at trying to cover expenses over time, or if you just prefer it just to say, hey, if I pass away during this time frame, my beneficiaries will be able to take care of whatever needs to be taken care of. Okay. Next, what I want to talk about is the whole life policy. I mentioned the whole life policy before, but I'm just going to kind of go and, break down how a whole life policy works. Okay. So a whole life policy is going to cost you more because it does not terminate. Okay. It would, stay with you for your entire life. And also it builds a thing called cash value. Now let's talk about that cash value a little bit. Okay. So with the cash value, notice whenever you ever see somebody or hear yourself, sometimes you don't even realize you're saying it. But if you say, hey, I'm gonna go and see how much is in my policy so I can borrow the money. Well, guess what? You're borrowing from, life insurance, company. That's not your money. Because if it was your money, you would be able to say, let me just go over here and just get XYZ, however much money it is. But the thing is that that cash value is tied back to that life insurance company, and they're allowing you to borrow. It's like they're letting you borrow the interest. So whenever you take out a loan against the cash value side of the policy, and let's say you're like, okay, I want to take this loan out, and you decide that you don't want to pay it back, that's fine. What will happen is whenever you pass away, whatever the outstanding loan is, they're going to take that from the face amount of the policy, and that's what the beneficiary will get. Okay. Also, if you decide that you don't want to, take a loan against the policy or what have you, and let's say all this money is accumulated over there in the cash value side of it. Well, guess what? If you pass away, that cash value does not, transfer over to the policy. It goes back to the company. Your beneficiary gets the face amount, the company gets back whatever the cash value is. And then lastly, if let's say you just let the policy lapse, you're like, I don't want this policy. I've taken a loan out, don't want it anymore. Well, guess what? Now the company is going to 1099 you for that outstanding balance that you have. So no matter what, but that cash value, guess what? The company is always going to, be able to say that they're still going to be first in getting what's theirs. Okay. But whole life, once again, is a good policy for those who don't want to worry about something terminating. They want to have that peace of mind of knowing it'll be with them for the rest of their life. And if they want to take and borrow against the cash value for whatever reason, they can do that. That's their right. The last type is what they call a universal life. Um, and what's really popular right now is what they call an IUL, an index universal life policy. And that policy has been out for a while now, but for some reason, like it's just coming back around. So it's something that's kind of real popular right now. And it's a good policy to have, don't get me wrong. But it kind of mimics a whole life, plan or what have you. So the difference between an IUL and a whole life pretty much is the cash value and how it's structured. So the cash value with an IUL is based on what they call the S&P, the Standard and Poor. So if you ever watch the stock market, there's those little red and green lines. It's kind of, you just see it going up and down. That's the trend that it follows. So it's not inside of the stock market. It just follows the trend of what's going on with the S&P. So if you see where that line is going up and it's green, it's kind of like steadily staying green, then that means that the interest that your cash value is able to accrue is going to be a little bit better. But let's say that red line is out there and it just keeps, showing that nothing is really going on or it's kind of dipping down. That doesn't mean you're losing money. That just means that the interest is not going to be as great as it would be if that line was green. So a lot of people like to use that policy if that's their main focus is being able to say, I want to use this while I'm still alive. I want to be able to use the cash value while I'm still alive to start another business, to invest, put my children through school, have a big party, whatever they want to do. They like that option because it still provides a death benefit, but at the same time, it also is building that cash value and it's going to build up, like I said, a little bit better sometimes than a regular whole life. So it just depends on what makes sense for you all. Okay. Term is good. The whole life is good. A UL is good. All of it is good if you ask me. It's just about being able to understand how each type works and how each type is going to make sense for you and your family. And what's just, overall just gives you that peace of mind. And whenever you have all of that, as far as knowledge is concerned, now you can use that to determine how you want to see you, your family, your community, to be able to once again go over that bridge from poverty to prosperity. Because I always say when it comes down to our people, we're a resilient people. We're very smart, but a lot of times we have been left on the left side of being able to build wealth. A lot of times we don't understand, things that are out there. And it's okay, because guess what? We're all ignorant to something. But one thing I'm trying to be able to do is to provide that education, to provide that knowledge, to be able to let people know, hey, look, you have options that are out here. And I always say this, whenever I do talk to people, especially when it come down to our people, we have to be able to get into the situation of thinking, or that I would say that positive thinking, of retraining our brain, unlearning bad behaviors, and to be able to say, you know what, I'm going to be the change that I want to see. A lot of times when it come down to people not having life insurance, what happens? Here come these GoFundMe's. And I can't stand the GoFundMe. I'm just going to be honest, because I always tell people GoFundMe is not life insurance, and neither is that fish fry foolishness. And neither of those t-shirt sales. It's all ghetto and it's got to go. And also, we have to get out of the habit of thinking that we can just say, okay, I don't have this, or this, but over here, I'm just going to go over here and I'm just going to start saving or allocating money. There's nothing wrong with saving. Do not think there's anything wrong with saving, but guess what? We cannot save our way to wealth just by just trying to take a small portion of our income, trying to put it over here, trying to say we're going to leave this for somebody else. The biggest way that you can actually say that I am going to try to leave wealth, to my family or whoever, is through the power of life insurance. Whether you want to do it while you're still alive, or whether you want to do it whenever you pass away, to be able to say, hey, look, I'm leaving something over here besides memories. So what I just, ask everybody, with me closing is, whether you decide to come over here with me or you go with another agent, just go with somebody. If you don't have any coverage, find somebody that you can go with that resonates with you. Somebody that can sit down with you and be able to put together some kind of blueprint for you so that you don't have to sit out here and you don't have to be a GoFundMe statistic. You don't have to sit out here and have your family out here begging, borrowing, and God, forbid stealing, trying to help bury you. So I always say to people, make sure that you're thinking about that. Make sure that you're always thinking, like I always say, stay ready so you ain't got to get ready. Make sure that you're in a position to say, if this is my last day here on earth, I can rest in peace knowing that my family is going to be taken care of. I'm going to be able to rest in peace knowing that I did my part as far as coming over that bridge to go from poverty to prosperity. We all have the ability to be able to do it. We all can be the change that we want to see. And I would always say this to any and everybody, whether you come from the hood or whether you come from the suburbs, we all have the power to be atmospheric transformers. And with that being said, I always say at the very end, my name is Shannon B, and I approve that message. Thank you so much.
Loved it, loved it, loved it. Shannon B. Wow. Again, you gave a lot of nuggets. And what I really loved about it is how you broke it down into simple terms. Because a lot of times I remember in the past when, I was like, this whole life, term life, which one should I get? But, you broke it down and you kind of remind me of my pastor, how he breaks down analogies of the Bible and make it simple to understand. And you did the same thing. Again, I got a page of notes here, but when you first started out with your story about your grandmother paying the insurance, man, I could literally relate to that. And so I was just following along and like, oh, that sounds like my story. And you also started out, why start with a why? Why do we need a why? Kind of hit home on that again.
I would say in anything we do, especially with business, I want to hear about a person's why because I want to know what your mission is. Because, if your mission out here is just to be able to make a commission and make some money, then I can't rock with you. But whenever you're doing something and you're doing it, from a place of, passion and a place of purpose, then at that point, I'm like, okay, I can rock with you. And that's what I always say with me. I always lead with compassion, grace, and mercy. But I'm also chasing my purpose. I'm chasing, my passion. And the profit will come later. So
Yes, yes. And again, we can hear the passion in your voice as far as, the insurance and why it's needed and to bless your families and whatnot. We hear that. And then I also noticed in your background there in your office, your posters, hustle and execution.
absolutely.
Kind of share what that means to you.
Well, that's a part of my daily affirmations. There's another one I couldn't fit on the wall because I didn't realize these signs were so big. So my husband had to put the other one, it's called grind, right here in front of me. And every day when I come in my office, I work from home. So when I open the door, sometimes life get the life in, and sometimes I'm like, I don't want to do this today. But whenever I come in here, remember I always say I talk about my great grandma Polly. I always say I'm standing on the shoulders of greatness. I come from great ancestors. So I have to come in here every day and get myself together. And, one of my daily affirmations also is, I am so much more than what you think I am. And I tell that to anything or anybody's trying to get in my way. But when I come in here, I'm always about like, let's hustle. Let's go ahead and grind. Let's execute however those things come into play. Whether it's hustle first or grind first or whatever, this is what I have to do to tell myself that I can do this, that I'm about this. And, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to make it do what it do. So every day I come in looking at that. And every day when I leave here, I look at them and say, you know what? I did everything I could today. And I made sure that what's up here on my walls is that I did that. I made sure I did that. I came here and I said, I'm going to make it do what it do. And I did it.
You definitely did it. You did it. And affirmations are so important for those of us that is on the summit Zoom call this morning. I mean, we need to have affirmation, be it scriptures or be it just the affirmation that we can read and put on in front of us in our office or when we wake up in the morning on the mirror. I have those same things and little sticky notes. So again, a lot of good nuggets here. And I love how you broke down, made it simple. And quick question for those who are on the Zoom here and they're kind of maybe up there in age or they're nearing retirement age, any particular ones, products that you would probably suggest?
If on the life insurance side, I would always say, it's always good to have what they call, a lot of times they break down and call it a final expense, which is just a whole life. It's just a nice, pretty name for a whole life policy. So I would always say just look at what you already have. Normally when I sit down with people, especially if it's someone that's maybe, let's say, over 55, a lot of times it's like, let's see what you already have. If you already have something, let's maybe try to expand that. And if you don't, let's just look at how much you're willing to spend, what you can still qualify for. Because sometimes, when it comes to age, sometimes you have pre-existing conditions. Sometimes it's the cost that, may just kind of be deterring people. So I would always say, let's just sit down, let's just look at what you have. Let's see how much you're willing to pay and what kind of policy just makes sense for you.
Great, great, great. Yeah, and I loved how you talked about the history of like the whole life versus term. That part I didn't know that we as a people couldn't get term insurance, just only
Mhm.
the whole life. And so again, we're being educated this morning. And matter of fact, even myself, I just signed up to take a insurance exam for health and life
All
just
right.
coming up.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and not so much as to really sell it, but more so to be educated myself and to share it with my children who, that can take it and really know about it and understand it.
Hmm.
So I have enjoyed your presentation, Miss Shannon B, Miss Shannon Brooks.
Thank
And
you.
those in the summit, if you are here and you enjoy listening to Miss Shannon Brooks, put a heart emoji in there, a fire emoji. Let's get this chat. Let's get this chat going. There we go. There we go. There
Thank
those hearts go.
y'all.
I
Thank y'all
love it. I
so
love it.
much.
Yes. So definitely stick around. And again, we're going to have a Q&A session later. And you want to get your questions, write them down so you can propose those questions to Miss Shannon Brooks. Again, thank you, Miss Shannon, and we will see you a little bit later.
All right. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. All right. All right. I told you these summits are awesome, full of great information that we all need. Again, when we know better, we do better. So, again, we're going to keep the energy going, and we're going to go to our second summit speaker this morning. And our second speaker is Mr. Jose Martin. And he's an advisor with Edward Jones Financial Investment Advisor. And his presentation title is Markets Today and the Cost of Waiting. So we're going to learn about some investments this morning from Mr. Jose Martin. All right, Mr. Martin, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. And it's very hard for me going behind my sister from another mother, Shannon. Very hard, but I wanted to, Shannon, she won't say it. She talked about me being humble, but she's a humble person. Shannon, she means her last line. She said she doesn't care who you get it from. You can get it from anyone. And the reason she said, I'm licensed to sell life insurance as well. And people are not going to believe this. Shannon has sent clients my way. That's how selfless she is.
Wow.
And that's how much it means to her. This is a woman that's not just talking. She's a person of action. She's doing it because when she's able to recognize a need, and whether she can feel it or somebody else can feel it or whatever the case is, that's what she's doing. And you can't help but love a person like that. You just can't help but love a person like that. So great job, Shannon. It's hard for me going behind you. I'm a little nervous going behind you, but I'll do my best. The one thing before I jump into who I am, what I will say about what she said is, the reason I sold life insurance and I do it within my practice, although I'm an advisor and a planner, is life happens and death does too. And I lost my younger brother at the ripe old age of 34 years old. And you know what he didn't have? He didn't have life insurance. But you know what he did have? A 4-year-old son. So for the rest of his life, that kid is already disadvantaged forever. You're never going to change it because you can't go back in time. So heed the words of Miss Brooks and what she's saying because it's true. And from my seat where I sit, the reason I sell it is because no matter care if somebody comes in with $1 million or $500,000, I've only had one person tell me they were too rich for life insurance. Only one, and he's just too arrogant. He was just an arrogant prick. No one else is going to say that because everybody knows the greatest asset to transfer wealth in this country always has been and always will be life insurance. So I'll continue on that in a later discussion. About me, I'm first generation everything, right? I'm from Georgia, South Georgia. I'm not even supposed to be here on this conversation with you guys. A product of a lot of struggle, but that struggle encouraged me and motivated me to do something probably that hadn't been done that was a little bit different. I went to school out of state. I studied engineering, which is how I resonate with Mr. Davies so much. Right? I'm an engineer by trade. I'm a computer engineer. I grew up in the .com era, and after a pretty successful career as an engineer, I like to tell people I helped build the internet on cell phones, which is actually true. When I worked in wireless technology, we didn't have internet and texting on cell phones, and I worked in the labs doing that. Decided to go to grad school, got my MBA, decided that my prowess and my abilities and spatial reasoning and all those great things that the Lord blessed me with were better served not in engineering, but on Wall Street. So that's what I did. I worked on Wall Street for 19 years, every big bank you can imagine. The white people look at me and they say, this guy has great pedigree. What they're saying is, man, we didn't think a person like you looked like you could be at JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, UBS on your resume. Not just right there, not as an analyst, not as an associate. When I ended my career in corporate on Wall Street, I was a senior VP. So I was in boardrooms I was working next to CEOs and COOs. But what it also did is gave me a perspective of how the market really works. Now how you see it on TV, now how the influencers and people are telling you on Instagram and TikTok, that's not how it works. How it really works. How everything that happens around us ties into it. How the politics tie into it. How the broader economics tie into it. So, you know, it was interesting. It came a point, and Shannon talked about why it was pre 2020, but post a lot of things that have happened in this country. And one of the things that have happened that touched me beyond my brother passing was the financial crisis. You know, I know we have someone talk about real estate and later on the summit, but a lot of fingers got pointed at Wall Street around what happened, who was to blame, Main Street versus Wall. The media, you know, their mission in life is to sell eyeballs, to sell views. So they're gonna say whatever, even if they don't know, if it's not true, they're gonna just say whatever. And what they never really wanted to own up to, while pointing fingers at Wall Street, Wall Street does it's a cog in the wheel. You take a product, you package, they sell it to people willing to pay for it. Just like any other distributor or retailer, you sell a product and people willing to buy it, that's what you do. What about the people's accountability for themselves? The chart in the beginning talking about this wealth disparity, 1%, the 2%, the 10%, the middle, the poor, and everything. The lack of education that Dr. Boyce Watkins talked about, the skilling. No one ever talked about that, right? Because my view was in 2008, 2009, because I was working at Bear Stearns when it collapsed, and no one worried about whether me and my job, it was going to be okay. Now that I don't have a job, I don't make millions on packaging products and selling it to other bankers. They're not selling it to people. No one talked about their own level of accountability in these things. Like, you take out a mortgage, it's your responsibility to understand how it works, not the banks. The bank's doing you a service by educating you. Shannon's doing you a service by educating you on life insurance. She talking about the book. Put it in a book. It's your responsibility to know what's in the book. And if you don't know, it's your responsibility to go out and find somebody who can help you. Because there's no shortage of resources. We have this thing, you might have heard of it, it's called the World Wide Web. Right? And everything you want to know is probably out there somewhere. So, you know, I always take offense to it. And people point the finger like Wall Street are bad guys. And that wasn't the reason I left Wall Street. I left Wall Street because people didn't understand. So I felt like my mission now is to educate. I had done so well making millionaires, billionaires, and billionaires trading at the 1%, as we said in the beginning. So my next mission was, what about the people who look like me? What about the people who don't have $250,000 in access and can't get an account with UBS advisor? Because they're not even going to talk to you if you don't have $250,000. Who are those people going to? Yeah, we have Vanguard and Fidelity and Robinhood and all these different things, but it doesn't help you if you don't understand how the game is really played. It doesn't help you at all. Those things can be free until infinity. It will not help you, which is why 90% of people who invest on their own lose money. That statistic is there for a reason. Everybody think they can do it. Let me just tell you, you better off go get that hammer, a saw, a chainsaw, plumbing glue, whatever, and go to Home Depot and try to fix stuff around your house than trying to fix your portfolio. It is not a DIY experience. Contrary to everything you may believe, it is not. So I decided that, you know, for me, the most practical way to help people was to get down on the ground level, see the people, get on the street, beat the pavement, be a financial evangelist, and get out and talk to people, help educate people. So that's what I done. And that's what I'm still doing. And so I also get a lot of flack about, oh, you're Edward Jones. It's not a black business. Last time I checked, when I look in that mirror every morning, I'm still black. When I go knock on that white man's door, I'm still black. So my business is just as much a black business as everybody else's business. Because I'm not getting a W-2 paycheck every 2 weeks. I'm a hunter. Everything I eat, I have to kill. Sorry for the expression, but it's true. I'm a black business owner that happens to be under the umbrella of Everett Jones, like every other person that's an advisor. They have to have a broker somewhere. Now it could be some third party or independent. I choose to go this route after trying the independent route. So I learned the hard way. So I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing because it's giving me the opportunity to touch more people. The great thing about being a big company is that I can take everybody. $5, $10, $50, whatever. It doesn't matter how big your account is. You know what? I can take everybody because I have support, I have systems, I have structure, so I can take everybody. And that's why I'm at Edward Jones versus being by myself as I was for a number of years. So I'm going to start sharing now. That's a little bit about me. And you're going to see that this is going to be eerily similar to the opening presentation. So Jimmy and DeAndre teed it up very nicely for me because you know what I like to talk about? The wealth gap. And you heard Dr. Boyce Watkins, you heard some of the other speakers talk about this 2053. If you don't know this number, this is the number every black person needs to know, and every black person you talk to needs to know, and every black person they talk to needs to know. That if we don't get our stuff together, the median black household wealth is going to be zero. And my bet is it'll be there before 2053. Because we're not doing anything meaningful materially to change this trajectory. Because we are still spending too much time, and social media has helped this cause, worried about, do you have the latest this? Do you have the latest car? Oh, you're paying $1,200 for a car payment? I'm glad you're not my client paying $1,200 for a car payment. I have a huge problem with that. Buy a used car. Go to the auction, buy one for $5,000 and don't have a car payment. So then you can invest in stock. So you heard some of these other stats, and I'll repeat them. Who's lowest on it? And no disrespect. My business is focused on black and Latino, but really, I mean, Latino people wouldn't even in this. Yes, a lot of our time in this country has been a struggle, but the fact that Latino people have more of their wealth in stock than black people, embarrassing. There's no other way to say it. It's embarrassing. And the same thing, home ownership. We've been in this country. And yes, we've had redlining. We've had predatory different lending. We've had a lot of different things. Still no excuse. You're going to keep paying somebody. Again, something I heard in the presentation. Rent, making the landlord rich? Come on. We got to change some of these things. But the biggest thing is that it affects me, and before I get into some real education, is this number. That's right. 99% of all financial assets are managed by white men. We're talking about white women is included and not having that as well, black women, and obviously black men. It's very difficult for us to get assets, to get accounts, to get everything, because somebody somewhere did a mean trick on us. They embedded in our minds that, you know, you go to the white man, everything's going to be okay, and it's going to be fine, because they know, or whatever the case may be. And I get a lot of accounts that get transferred from those guys, and all of them are garbage. All of them have the same characteristics. They have not thought about your black account, not one bit. You're not in the best products. You're not getting the best return. They're just charging you high fees. It's always the same playbook. I get them every week. I'm happy to get them because I'm able to help my people and fix and change some of this direction. But we have to change this. We have to change this. We need to work with each other as entrepreneurs, as people in our community, and so forth. And I'm not saying, I'll say the same thing. I'm not saying come to me. I'm saying find somebody to go to that you can trust. That's going to be able to be, because the reality is, even if we don't go to zero, if all the money is still controlled by white men, guess what? We still are in some type of predicament. If they decide one day that they're going to do something a little bit more extreme than Project 25 or Project 26 or whatever Trump, or they're going to do something more extreme than MAGA, where's all the money you think you work for and you say is what? You're in trouble. Because you can't even, the person you're going to call and say, hey, I want to liquidate, he probably not even answering your call. But you know who's going to answer your call? I'm going to answer the call. So I'm going to jump into it. So traditionally, I'll go back a little bit, like Shannon, a la Shannon. Traditionally, in our community, what have we done? We run to, we say, well, I'm saving. As Shannon mentioned it, saving is not going to get you to wealth. She's right. And even saving in CDs and all that, not getting you into no wealth. CDs right now probably pay 3.7, 3.8. They're doing pretty good because interest rates are high. But if you're paying they're paying you 3.7, 3.8, but inflation is also 3.6. This is a bit dated, apologies. Guess what your money is? Your money is making zero. You think you're doing something because you go drop your money in a 3%, 4% CD. First of all, you don't have access to it. And then you're not really making any money after inflation because your money is barely going up and everything around you, all your costs are going up around you. Education costs are going up 4% a year. Healthcare costs going up 8% a year. So tell me how well that CD is doing for you. You're losing money every day. And I don't even have the slide showing you if you got your money in Bank of America, PNC, Chase, Truist. Just pick a bank. You don't put cash in those banks. You make money off your money. You make money while you sleep. And it don't all have to be in the stock market, but it needs to be somewhere earning you more than what they're paying you to 0.00001%. I throw out some numbers for you. $50,000 in one of those accounts at the end of the year, you'll have a whole $5. $50,000 even in a money market account that's paying you 4%, guess what you have? A whole $2,000. There go Christmas right there. So if you're a business owner, don't have your cash sitting around at the bank. Things have changed. My services include, I have same banking capabilities as every one of those other banks. But you know what I'm going to do for you? I'm going to make your money make money. The only thing in the history of this world, contrary to what you may hear, believe, think, that can outpace inflation is the stock market. Shannon mentioned the IULs on the S&P. The reason the IULs are based on the S&P is because of this statistic. The only thing that can outpace inflation is the stock market. So if you're not in it and in a meaningful way, I know y'all all saw the news. How many trades did Trump trade in the first quarter? I'll spoil it. 3,700. He's the president of the country. He's already a billionaire, but what did he do? He made 3,700 trades in the first quarter. Now, I'll be thinking, man, why is this guy Trump trading so much? Spoiler alert, because that's how you make money. So let's go back to one realistic example. 19 years ago, Apple released the iPhone. Now, I'm not saying everybody has an iPhone, but I would say a good portion of these have an iPhone or Android. So, you probably pay whatever company you're paying over 19 years, a lot more than $5,000 for all those cell phone bills. I mean, it doesn't take long to get to that. So $5,000 19 years ago, instead of paying everybody's cell phone, or even when I taught school for 1 year just to show you how much I really care about education. I went into the classroom, a group of seventh graders, they all held their iPhones. How many of you own Apple shares? And none of them could raise their hand. They didn't even know what I was talking about. Apple share, what are you talking about? I said, yeah, you can buy shares in the company, so you're an owner. And it blew their mind, young minds. But that's the level we need to get to, blowing young minds. 521,000 is what that would be worth right now. And that's just a modest return, right? That's 100x your money. I don't know about you, but I like 100x in my money. Another example, better example. The beacon of all future, and I know if you've been listening to Mr. Davis, you know about AI and NVIDIA, the preeminent, most valuable company in the world. It's not even close. Used to be a gaming company, made chips, graphic processor for gaming, for PCs. You probably saw it on the laptop, little green sticker back in the day. Well, you bought $5,000 just 10 years ago of NVIDIA stock. Oh, it'd be just worth $1.2 million right now. So life insurance can pass down wealth. The stock market can make you wealth. So again, 250x your money. So people look at it and they say, well, man, but the stock market is like unpredictable. Well, I took some numbers from just the past 12 years. I can go back 19 years. There's been 2 instances where the stock market has been down for the year. 2018, really an anomaly. Just coming out of some difficult time. We had been on a good run. Economics, transition of administrations, similar like what we have going on now. And we just had a bad year, right? There was some number of different things going on. 2022, we were coming out of COVID. You had inflation. The Fed was raising interest rates. There was no way the market was going to survive that. The market does not like high interest rates, which is why it struggled yesterday. So we had a bad year. But you take all the other years. Historically, the stock market has returned 11% over the last 100 years, which is basically what the last chart showed, right? 11%, about 11%, average return. But if you look at that, that's not even an accurate number. Over the last 20 years we've been in a bull market, that number is meaningfully higher. Meaningfully higher. Last year we did 18%. Year before that, 25. Year before that, that's just the S&P. If you're in the NASDAQ, the numbers are even tremendously higher. The NASDAQ is the index as well, has 100 of the top growth companies. Not tech. People think tech, not just tech, it's growth companies. Costco's in the NASDAQ. Because why? Because their numbers the numbers project like a growth company. So what else does the stock market give you? Well, it gives you volatility, right? But volatility, sometimes maybe that's just an opportunity. When I see this, people say, well, look at all those dips, the up and downs. And all, well, yeah, I don't care about that. Why do you care about that? What you need to be looking at is in 2019, the number was like 2,000. And this is, again, dated. Yesterday, even on a down day, the number closed to 7,400. That's 2.5 times. That's 250%. That's before COVID. So what do? Well, everybody was nervous. COVID happened back in 2020, right? They was running, you're trying to work, you worry about your family, and I get all that. You know what, people who are in that 1%, and I hate those things. That's the worst part. Yes, we have a wealth gap. I know that. But it's sowing complacency and finger point when we talk so much about the 2%. Just do what they're doing. Don't talk about what they're doing. That's why I'm not a socialist. I'm a capitalist through and through. Because while everybody was worried about it and waiting on their PPP and are they going to get a check from the government and all that's important, I get all that. You know what people who understand how the market work were doing? They were buying. I bought my NVIDIA shares, 400 of them. My average cost is something like $3 and something on a stock that went to 1,000 and split like 3 times already. That's what I was doing in March of 2020. I was saying the world's on fire. There's only 2 ways for it to end. Everything bounced back and I become really rich, or we all go anyway. And that's not a gamble. That's just thinking ahead of what likely will happen. Because I can go all the way back to everything that's happened. World wars, conflicts, epidemics, pandemics, whatever you want. You put all that stuff on this chart, and this chart still looks the same. It is a rocket ship straight up. So I said I would talk about the cost of waiting, right? And I showed you examples of the cost of waiting. If you miss Apple, if you missed NVIDIA, you missed, right? And people say, well, there's no cost of that. I didn't spend any money. Opportunity cost is the biggest cost we have. If you have an opportunity to do something and you don't do it, it will end up costing you. Because opportunity cost is real. That's like when people talk about going to college and investing in college and say, well, I'm trying to wait. Well, you have a choice to make, right? You could spend that money and go to college and get a degree, or you could continue to work, right? When you go to school, there's an opportunity cost, but you're leaving money on the table you could be working for. But the question is the return on the other end going to be worth the cost of taking that opportunity? And that's how you have to look at it. So there's a cost of waiting, right? If life insurance is the best tool to transfer wealth, time is the most important asset that any of us have, that we will ever have, that the world has ever seen. You combine time with compound interest, as Einstein would have stated, the 8th wonder of the world, and guess what you get? Explosion. And the younger, the better. So what this is showing, and I'll zoom in for everybody so you can see it real good. You start at 10 years old, and I love Shannon. She know this. Life insurance is great. Well, you don't need life insurance. If you put $3,000 in an investment account for a 10-year-old, by the time they go to college, you let it sit, $13 million is going to be much better than any life insurance you're going to be able to afford. $1 million whole life policy for a 21-year-old is $1,000 a month, right? Are you going to pay that, or are you going to do this? $3,000 a year is $250 a month from a 10-year-old to 20-year-old, and look at the difference. This is the power of time. Wait those 10 years till you're 20-year-old and do that. Well, you just lost $10 million. Okay, you didn't want to get started. You was, quote unquote, trying to get your stuff together, whatever that means. Wait another 10 years, and now you done lost another $3 million. Well, you're in your 30s, you're out here, you're dating, you're doing this, you're sleeping on your cousin's couch, whatever. You're still trying to get your stuff together. Keep on waiting. Now, What could have been when you was $24 million slowly and surely become potentially just $343. This is this is the most important concept there is. Point blank. And you don't have to be a genius in the stock market to make money off this. This is assuming 13% return. What did I say lately? The market's been much better. Right? The last 30 years has been about 13%. This is passive. You could put it in an ETF and do this. What this takes is commitment and consistency. That's what it takes. You just do it over time. You set it and forget it. You pay yourself. You go to church and you pay that 10% tithe. I can guarantee you this is less than 10%. Minimum wage in most places $15. So $15 on $2,000 is $30,000. 10% paying yourself at minimum wage numbers is $3,000 a year. So if you can't pay yourself 10%, then you have bigger problems than worry about the 1%, the 2%, or something else. There's something that needs to happen. And it's probably that relationship with money and the procrastination, the shiny things right now, all those things that the video talked about that we need to get over. So I'm gonna end it on this one because I don't think there's anything else better than this to end it on. So there's some general rules, right? And these are generic. I like them, right? They're kind of corporate, but they true. They're true and true. One, you have to have a strategy, a why, a plan. Call it whatever you want, but you got to have a strategy. You got to know what are you doing, why you're doing, and what you want to do it for. Your family, yourself, retirement, your kids going to college, whatever, right? Yes, there's risk. You got to understand the risk, and you understand your risk, your tolerance for risk. You have to diversify. That means international stock, tech stocks, consumer goods, energy companies. But you know what? The one thing I see a lot of things in our community, this is the number one thing, number 4. We always looking for the home run. The stock market is not Vegas. The stock market is not Atlantic City. The stock market is not the roulette table. It is not a gamble. You do not have to go try to find the $1 stock, the penny stock that's going to be the next best thing because somebody told you or you saw something on TikTok or Instagram. I hate those two, by the way, for finance. Just FYI, I'm just not going to be shy about it. They're terrible for getting people into the right thing. You got to stick with quality. That's why I showed you Apple. That's why I showed you Nvidia, Amazon, Costco, Sherwin-Williams. The list goes on. Stick with quality, you will be fine. Invest for the long term, you will be fine. Set realistic expectation. I get so many people say, I want to double my money this year. That's not going to happen, sir. It's just not going to happen. That's luck, is what that is. And this is not luck. This is not gambling. This is not luck. Maintain your balance and prepare for the unexpected. This is where protecting your portfolio with life insurance, term life, whatever you got to do is important. Because if you got a big portfolio, you die, your family got to liquidate, guess what? Well, they still at zero at the end of the day. But if you could let that money continue to use that time because you have that term policy, you're in much better space. That's my time, folks. I will be on the session at the end. Again, thank you very much for your time and attention.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jose Martin. Thank you, sir. And you told us that you were nervous and this, that, and the other, and we couldn't tell. Once you got rolling, you kept steam rolling through there. You started off, and again, in regards to the internet being out there, ways to grab information. And so there are no excuses not to get information and to educate ourselves. And it's so true. It's out there. Like I say, we can research. Okay, they say it's not 100%. Of course, nothing is, but we can do our due diligence and do the research. And you put a statistic out there. 90% of people lose their money when investing themselves. And you kind of share a little something on that real quick.
Yeah, I mean, the reality, my general philosophy is that everybody should have a financial advisor. There's no quarrels about it because I've put in hundreds of thousands of hours to do this. I'm no different from any other person that's licensed, a doctor, a nurse, a dentist. That's what I do. I do it all day, every day. So I don't think it's realistically possible for people to think that, oh, I can just go do it myself a few hours a day and have the same performance as that type of person. It's just not realistic. It's like thinking you can go and you can do 1 or 2 plumbing jobs and then all of a sudden you're a master plumber. It's not realistic to even think that, right? Everything's not a DIY. But with regards to information, the companies give information. A public company is a public company. You can go get real information directly from the company, but you got to read it. And then the second part, you got to understand it. And it's not as easy for everybody to understand. So I think that's the challenge with it. The market is it's an interesting animal. Modern portfolio theory say everything that is should be known, all the information about a stock is already in the stock. But people, they hear something from their friend and they think, oh, I made a lot of money on XXXX stock. By the time that person tells you that, it's already too late. You're buying at a level that's already there. The information is already in the stock. It's not new information. It's not about to keep doing that. Sometimes it will, but likely people always get it when it's too late. And that's the reason a lot of people lose money.
Wow. And I love the term that you called yourself, a financial evangelist.
That's right.
Going out there spreading the good word about finances. I love it. I love it.
A lot of bad information out there, trust me. And that's my unfortunate. There's an unfortunate thing that there is a lot of bad information out there. And I try to be truthful because I don't want to lose my license. I'll just be honest. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm gonna tell you just like it is.
Right.
I always say, if you hear from somebody whose job is to get eyeballs, to get likes, to get followers, to sell books, that's not a person you want to take your financial advice. I don't care who they are. Susie Ortman, what's the other guy, the white guy that everybody follows? Those people's job is to sell books. My job is to, if I don't tell you the truth and get new accounts, my family doesn't eat. My job is to manage finances, not to sell books. So there's a great distinction there.
Wow. And I love how you said you take everybody from almost from $5 if you got it to invest to $5 million to
that's
invest.
Right.
Yeah. And last, there's a cost for waiting. Opportunity cost is real. And sometimes a lot of times we don't realize that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Unfortunately, what I see is, and somebody, you asked Shannon a question about 55-year-olds and older and what can people do when they're approaching retirement. Unfortunately for me, the saddest thing I see a lot of times people, I speak all the time. I was being coy about the nervous now. I actually speak all the time at churches, libraries, and so forth. The reality is that I get so many people that are 60, 65, and the first thing they say is, I wish I had known this. And that's the saddest thing to me, is when somebody tell me, I wish I had known this when I was younger. Right. And so, the people who are getting that information that are there, my hope is that they take that information and they pass that to the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. Because when you miss it, you miss it. And largely, all the presentation we started with talked about this. Really, I can summarize everything we showed in the beginning. We usually miss everything as Black people. We couldn't get the Industrial Revolution because we didn't have rights. Like Ken Shannon said about, we couldn't even have certain life insurance policy. We missed that. Then we had the Civil Rights Movement. We were struggling just to fight for the rights we should have had. So we missed stuff then. In the 70s, we had inflation, we had controversy in Washington, we had wars, Vietnam, people come back and hook on heroin for projects. So we missed everything then. And then in the 80s, we had crack, we had AIDS, we had all this stuff. Our community got hit most of all. We missed everything then. .com was right there in our eye, right? We made a few bad investments. We got scared, and we said, no, we're not going to do that. We missed that. And then COVID, we missed it again. We have AI now, and if you miss it, shame on you. Because there's enough people out there telling you this is something, not only is going to change the way we work, change technology, change your life, it's a great opportunity to change your family's future by investing. That's why Trump traded 3,700 trades.
Wow. Again, I see that passion just really came out at the end there. So yeah, we're fired up, and we thank you for sharing with us on our summit this morning, and looking forward to Q&A to ask you some questions. So for the attendees that's in the chat, if you love what you heard, you hear the passion, again, let's see those emojis. Let's see those fire emojis. Let's see those heart emojis. Let's get this chat fired up. So thank you again, Mr. Jose Martin, and we will see you in just a minute.
Thank you.
All right, let's keep it going. Let's keep it going. We are fired up here this Saturday. Again, you could be anywhere this Saturday, but you are here at the summit to, again, take in this information and to use it for yourselves and to pass it along to your children's children. So again, we're here to be a blessing, and I'm just loving the energy this morning. So we're going to keep this energy going, and we're going to go to our third speaker. And our third speaker is Mr. Philip Nimbard, who is the founder of NPM Accounting and Advisory, LLC. And the title of the presentation is Multiply Business Value, Permanently Reduce Taxes, the 2 moves that drive entrepreneurial wealth. And I'm really going to zoom in on this permanently reducing taxes. And so, again, Mr. Philip Nimbard, go ahead and share with us this morning, sir.
Sir, good morning. Good morning. Happy to be here. Happy to present hopefully some useful facts and awareness for my small business community and everyone else who wants to. Of course, we all want to be successful. So hopefully that this will be a great eye-opener for some people. All right, so let me just get right into it. So today I want to share my presentation. Yes, is about 2 key drivers of entrepreneurial wealth. And I will be discussing those under the broader theme of practical strategies for today's entrepreneur. A little bit about me. My name is Philip Nimbard. For those who don't know me, I have spent more than 25 years of my professional career in accounting, strategic tax advisory and planning, business advisory. I am a CPA with an MBA in finance and a bachelor in accounting, plus other studies that I've done. But beyond the credentials, I am also an entrepreneur myself. Over the years, I've launched and worked with multiple businesses, which given me firsthand experience with real pressures that business owners face. In managing growth, improving cash flow, reducing taxes, and trying to build something that creates long-term freedom for themselves without stress. So I want to share some things along the entrepreneurial journey, the setbacks, challenges, and opportunities, and so forth. Why is this important? Most people start a business to achieve financial freedom, time freedom, lifestyle flexibility, legacy, and generational wealth. However, many struggle and fail and fall short of those goals. And this is a continuing trend. This presentation focuses on awareness and highlights the reasons and challenges and opportunities to help business owners drive value and achieve what they envision. In today's information age, there is no shortage of ideas on how to grow a business. But what most business owners lack is a strategic framework that helps them to prioritize their actions, the right actions, and set realistic expectations, measure progress, and stay accountable to the outcomes that they really and truly want. Now, the key drivers of entrepreneurial wealth. I present these to multiply your business value. Real wealth is first created in the business, as we know, but many lack the resources to fully unlock it on their own. The second driver is permanently reduce tax cost. This is one of the most misunderstood areas of finance and wealth building. The right wealth infused tax strategies will redirect, redeploy capital, protect wealth, and compound it. So we're going to go into the first wealth driver, number one. Multiplying business value requires critical mindset shifts, because true entrepreneurial wealth is created by building and owning assets that generate free cash flow, produce passive income, and appreciate in value over time. Far too many businesses and owners operate in a short-term survival mindset. They are trapped in what's called a single point of failure trap, which is extreme dependency on the owner. But most who eventually break through are the ones who have made a critical mindset shift from survival-based to value-based thinking. They start asking questions like, how much is my business worth without me? And what actions today can I take to drive and maximize its value? According to an M&A deal maker, Mr. Bradley, 87% of business owners overestimate what they think their business is worth. This reveals how many owners are blindsided by factors that suppress value, often creating a significant value gap. And unfortunately, many discover this too late at the point of selling their business or negotiating a sale. And because they fail to seek the right guidance early. Now, today I'm going to present or introduce to you a 5-step process that we use to transform owner-dependent businesses into what we call freedom businesses. Businesses that can scale and eventually operate independently. The system is designed to systematically increase business value at each stage, resulting in higher multiples as the business progresses toward the freedom level. A quick overview of the entire framework. The framework is built around 5 stages of the business growth life cycle. Starts with the creation stage, then goes through chaos, then emerges into control, then prosperity, and ultimately freedom. Across the 5 levels, we have 21 optimization, we call it business optimization strategies, BOS, available to implement based on what is missing in the business. But before implementing any strategy, we typically begin with a diagnostic process and the proprietary tools that highlights and quantifies all points of cash and profit leaks. This gives us a clear guidance on what actions to prioritize based on the current stage of the business and how much cash can be potentially recovered. For business owners who are at the point of wanting to exit or sell their business, we have private equity firms in our network that we work closely with that are ready to buy at the highest valuation possible. Quick example or one or two examples of how our tools help to drive value. Here we have a snapshot of what a profit driver tool does. This is the main diagnostic tool. It identified a number of areas of cash leaks in the business. And here we highlight 6 of them. These were optimized as they worked through the process. And the result was annual profit was increased by 787,000. The after profit amount was 570,000. My apology. If the owner of the business was to invest that proceed or that additional income, one-time investment at 6 years, for 6 years at a 10% yield, it would amount to over 1 million in additional income. Investing the same amount every year for 6 years consecutively at the same 10% would yield over 5.1 million. Key point here is that many businesses are far closer to breakthrough performance than they truly realize. However, they lack the visibility and systems to identify those opportunities. A second quick look at another tool we have. This shows how a small tweak in your business KPIs. For example, a 5% increase, just a 5% increase in sales, a 5% decrease in cost of sales, and a 5% decrease in overheads can yield a 14% and a 24% increase in gross margin and net profit, respectively. And if we should further decrease taxes by 5%, which I'm sure we can do a lot more than that easily, you also have a 27% increase in after-tax profit. Quick summary of our 21 business optimization strategies. We organize them by time, team, and money. These are 3 critical resources that are optimized across the entire business life cycle. And we show that 4 of these are designed to free up the owner's time. 10 of these are designed to attract right talents, build teams and leadership structure, incentivize them, and tie their compensation to performance and more. And the third one, money, is where we grow sales, manage, stabilize, and grow cash flow. Tying this into the framework of Robert Kiyosaki's 4 quadrants of financial success, recall that we have employee wages, self-employed income, business owner income, and investor. Note that the Freedom stage in our framework closely aligns with the I quadrant. Another example I'll present here is to illustrate 3 paths to success. We have save, build, and sell. These are the 3 that are available for those who are business-minded, entrepreneur and business owner. Let's say, for instance, your future lifestyle requires about $250,000 per year. There are 3 paths. The first path is to save your way to freedom. This path requires you to build a profitable business, live below your means, and consistently invest the surplus. But to generate 250,000 per year in the future, you may need about 12 million invested over time, requiring decades of discipline, investing, sacrifices, and consistency. This path assumes that no major setbacks will occur, no market crashes, no disruption, or spending creep. And this aligns with the self-employment path. However, this is really not realistic. So let's look at the second one. Second path, you build a business that generates free cash flow, without depending entirely on you, because free cash flow is where businesses operates and return cash flow that are just free to the owner. After all, company obligations are met. Okay. The system operates with the team executes, and the business begins paying you to own it. At a 10% margin, you may need roughly 2.5 million in revenue to generate 250,000 in free cash flow. At higher margins, the required revenue drops dramatically. And this is a transition from self-employment to true business ownership, the B quadrant. Now, the third option here is to build a business, sell it, reinvest the proceeds, and live from the income generated by those assets. $250,000 in passive income requires $5 million in investable capital. But this is where many business owners encounter a valuation gap, the difference between what they thought versus what the market says. A business generating 500,000, for instance, in EBITDA, which is earnings before taxes, may sell for 1.5 to $2 million, far below business owners' expectations. And if the business still depends heavily on the owner, the valuation can drop even further. So this is where we systematically optimize. We work with business systematically optimize the value to close that valuation gap. This leads us into our second wealth driver, permanently reducing taxes. Why is this important? Now, because improving business performance is only half of the equation. Once a business begins generating stronger profits and cash flow, the next challenge becomes preventing that wealth from evaporating into taxes. Hence, we have strategic tax planning. And what is strategic tax planning? It is a complete mindset shift from filing taxes. Filing taxes is primarily a compliance reporting activity. Strategic tax planning, on the other hand, is the intersection of financial, business, and investment planning to achieve tax efficiency and to redeploy capital to compound wealth. The US tax code is fundamentally a system of incentives. Congress uses it to incentivize certain economic activities while discouraging others. This knowledge forms the core of strategic tax and wealth planning. It is the alignment of one's business, personal investments, or lifestyle that with what the government incentivizes. And in doing so, the government is rewarding you for taking those actions through reduced or eliminated taxes. Tax planning and strategies must be typically implemented before the end of the year in order for your circumstances to reflect the new reality. And this is what the wealthier class often do every year to achieve significant tax and permanent tax savings. Unfortunately, the majority of the rest of the taxpayers, mainly the middle class, continue to wait until after year end to discuss taxes with their CPAs. By then, it is too late. So, as a result, they continue to receive the default tax treatment and pay more taxes eventually. Quick case study just to illustrate. A client roughly had 225,000 in projected profit with an estimated tax bill of 75,000. Because he acted proactively, which was about 3 months before the year end, we were able to implement 3 basic strategies. And I said basic because there are advanced strategies that it would take us a long time to go into. And these 3 basic strategies are: 1, restructuring business entity. So we were able to restructure the business entity. We created retirement plan, one with extreme flexibility and options for Roth conversion. And also, we were able to add some commonly overlooked employee benefits that he was able to take advantage of. The result of these 3 basic strategies we were able to reduce taxes from 75,000 down to about 33,000. That's about a $42,000 redirected into business, personal investment or retirement, and eventually long-term wealth building. Now, this is just for 1 year. Think about the compounding effect of this over 5, 6, 10 years. So some key highlights here. The tax strategy isn't just about paying less it's about redeploying capital. The more cash you have in your hands, the more to invest, reinvest, more capital to grow your business, and more wealth to compound over time. Some final key takeaways to my presentation here. Buyers do pay a premium for freedom businesses. Many businesses are closer to breakthrough performance than they realize, but without the right help, many still lack that visibility. Wealth and freedom are intentionally accomplished, or we'd say engineered. Great businesses are not built alone. Owners need a team of advisors. Even Fortune 500 companies rely on boards and advisors to be successful. Business is a team sport. Filing taxes merely reports what you earn. It is not life-changing. Without tax strategies, wealth from profitable businesses will evaporate. What kind of freedom do you want to create? If you would like to help with challenges in your business or have financial or tax-related questions, I would be more than happy to discuss them through a one-on-one discovery session. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you, Philip. Thank you, sir. Again, a lot of information, and I definitely want to follow up with you as far as that wealth driver number 2, permanently reduce taxes. Like I say, I want to follow up with you on that one. And a few takeaways here. I know you brought up 3 key parts here: time, team, and money. And then again, time management, plan, and having a strategic plan. I mean, those are so important.
Yes, sir.
And can you just briefly talk about the time management, why it's so important, and having a strategy?
My God. It is crazy. I have lived this. Starting a business is not for, entrepreneurship journey is not for the faint of heart. And the time factor is tremendous. It can erode so many things in your life. Many business owners started out not knowing how to really run a business. They're phenomenal at what they do. Doctors and engineers and so forth. They're, even restaurant owners, they're good at what they do. They know how to cook. They know how to sell good products and services. But running the business is another thing. And many people learn on the job. They learn, eventually improve over time. But the time factor is tremendous. It is where most business owners wear so many hats. And without the right help, they're not able to restructure everything, to delegate, find the right talents, the right people to delegate duties. Most of the time that they spend are are inefficient, and it costs them. One important concept that was presented before is the concept of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is a killer. It's a silent cost that most people don't consider. And when a business owner spends so much of their time on less value work, they are actually killing their wealth. They're killing their the 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 the, the power of the business to generate the potential income or cash flow that that business could generate, because they're taking away so much time to do other things that are not as valuable. So where we come in and where this system helps is where they can restructure their time, remove those things off their schedule and off their agenda, and delegate or delete or whatever that needs to be done, and then focus on those things that will drive more cash flow and more wealth in their business.
Right, right. Wow. So lastly, you mentioned tax strategy isn't paying less, it's about redirecting. And that's so important.
Yes.
So for those who want to take advantage and request a work session, Mr. Nembard has put his information at the bottom of his screen here. And be sure to take that and go ahead and schedule you a work session to find out how you can reduce permanently your taxes and so much more. So we'd like to thank you again, Mr. Philip Nimbar. We thank you. And in the chat, put up those emojis and let's keep this energy going, because again, you won't be disappointed with our next speaker. Speaker number 4 is Dr. Constance Craig Mason, who has a master registered financial consultant, a national social security advisor, and she is the CEO of Concierge Financial Advisory. And the title of her presentation will be Money, Trauma, and Wealth Building: Why Smart People Still Make Stress-Driven Financial Decisions. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hear from Dr. Constance Craig Mason. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am. We can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome, awesome. Well, I am super excited to be here, and I am honored to be amongst my peers. You all have done a phenomenal job already. I've been enjoying the conversation. But as Mr. Ford said, I am here to clutch a little bit of pearls, if you will, right? We are not having a financial literacy issue. We are in the information age, right? We have Google, we have YouTube, we have all these college universities. We have opportunities to learn. So I want to shout out Dr. Davies for pulling us all together so we can be in a safe space to learn and grow. But I'm here not to talk about insurance or investments, retirement accounts. I know we have a day trader on the platform. I'm not here to talk about that, even though I am a financial planner, investment advisor, insurance broker with 17 years of experience. I'm here to talk about you. I want to talk about you, Nicole. You, Kenneth. I want to talk about you, Jimmy. What am I saying? I'm here to check in today to make sure you're doing all right. Because in today's society, there is so much division. There is so much people othering on each other and causing a lot of undue stress. And when we think about our money matters, our emotions and our behaviors are tied to our money story. And so I want to share with you, just like I put in the chat there, put a 1 in the chat. This is a safe space. If you feel like you're smart, you're talented, you're hardworking, and you make good money, but yet and still you feel financially stressed, watching the stock market, watching all the changes in the administration, watching Congress battle it out, you feel financially stressed. I see the ones, Michelle, Derek, Angela, thank you for your transparency. I too look out and I feel stressed not just about my current situation, but maybe even about my future. And when I said earlier, we don't have a financial literacy issue. We have a stress issue. And that's what I wanted to talk with you all about today, my peers and our attendees. So Dr. Constance Craig Mason here, although I've been in this field for over 17 years now, thank God, I grew up in the inner city of Baltimore, Maryland, to a young single mom. And my mom was very young. I feel like I kind of grew up with her, but I did watch her constantly worrying about money. We moved around a lot. I was one of those children that they would say would be parentified, meaning I took on a lot of responsibilities in my youth. You know, I watched my mom make miracles with the little bit of resources that she had. And what did that create in me? It created some resilience. It created some creativity. It created some determination, but it also created stress and a poverty mentality. Somebody put poverty mentality in the chat for me. It created a poverty mentality, meaning there was not enough money going around for the expenses that were to be handled. I consider myself to be what they call an unlikely entrepreneur, because you see, coming up like that, I would consider myself to be one of those statistics that they talk about. Growing up in poverty, experiencing domestic violence in the home, substance abuse issues, all of those things that children cannot control. But yet, there are statistics that show that when you grow up in a house where there's a lot of dysfunction going on, right? There's financial challenges going on, that this could lead to financial instability in that child's adult life. So I'm checking on you. I'm checking on you, DeAndre, Antonio. I'm checking on you, Kenneth, because guess what? A lot of these financial experts don't go out on these platforms and share where they've come from. They share where they are today. But it doesn't mean that even though you may have degrees, you know what you're doing in the financial space, that you still don't feel financially stressed. It could be coming from something that residual from your youth. It could be coming from some kind of loss that you've experienced in your life, right? Can we be real about it? It's a safe space. I want to talk with you about the fact that even me, after being in this field 17 years, I kept saying the same thing as I was sharing with my husband for the 99th time about some of my childhood experiences. I kept using the word hard when I described how I grew up, how I navigated young adult life, how I navigated parenting. And he's been here with me, navigating it with me, but I kept using the word hard. It's hard to get a client. It's hard to get partnerships. It's hard to maintain consistent cash flow. It's hard. And then I stopped myself. And I realized that there was a disconnect between how I was feeling and what my reality is. See, my reality is I have the proof that I have clients. I have the proof that I have partnerships. I have the proof that over the last several years, I've been able to make 6 figures with no W-2 income. Clap it up for myself. Listen, y'all know it's hard out here. But my nervous system was wrecked. I'm looking at the proof, but my nervous system was still wrecked. Why? Because there's still a disconnect of residuals from how I grew up to how I live my life today. I want to be real with you all. I know Dre was giving us good information. I know Shannon was giving us good information. We're going to learn about stock and insurance and day trade. We're going to learn about all that, but I want to talk about you, right? How are you navigating as an entrepreneur, as the stress piles up, as you get and obtain your clients? I talked a little bit about how I grew up, and it was tough. It was toxic, right? There is a study, actually a quiz called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Quiz. It's 10 questions that you can Google and go out there and answer for yourself. Adverse Childhood Experiences Quiz. The reason why I bring that up is because it was mind-blowing for me when I discovered it a few years ago. And what it is, it's 10 questions that's based on 3 areas. It's abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. Now, think about yourself as a child. You're not paying any bills. You're not responsible for anything. But yet, there's these 10 questions that represent potentially what your experience was like. And if you answer those questions honestly, then you'll be able to see what your score is. Now, statistically, they say that 4 out of 10 of that quiz If you score a 4 out of 10, that will let you know that you are 3 times more likely to have financial instability as an adult. If you answer those 10 questions accurately, and you will see what the score is. I'll give you mine. My score was a 9 out of 10. When I tell you I'm an unlikely entrepreneur, I'm an unlikely entrepreneur. Someone who grew up in a toxic household with a score of 9 out of 10 for adverse childhood experiences. You would not expect me to be 17 years in this field, still going strong. But I bring that up because statistically, if you have 6 out of 10, they say that you would have 20 years shaved off your life expectancy. Why am I telling you this? Because you may be challenged as an entrepreneur and not even understanding that a lot of this may be residual from your youth. Can I keep it real with you today? My score is a 9 out of 10, but even a 6 out of 10 could cause you to lose your life early because of something that happened in your youth in a house you were not responsible for. Oh, I'm talking about you today. I'm checking in on you today. Now, when we talk about those adverse childhood experiences, guess what? It goes even a bit further. Now, I myself, like some of my peers on this platform, am also an insurance agent. So you have the life insurance, the critical illness, chronic illness, long-term care, all of those types of things. But there is a study. It's called the Holmes and Rahe study. And it gives you an idea of the top 100 stressful life events that will cause you to potentially have a serious illness. Again, the Holmes and Rahe stress. You can answer these questions and it will let you know how likely you are to have a stressful illness come upon you. Now, I'm going to read them off to you. Put a 2 in the chat. Any married people in here? Put a 2 in the chat if you're married, okay? I'm going to read off the top 10 most stressful life events that could cause you to have a serious illness. I see you, Michelle, Shannon, Jose, okay. Number 1, the death of a spouse is the top most stressful life event that could cause you to have a serious health illness. Divorce, number 2. Marital separation, number 3. 4, imprisonment. Number 5 is the death of a close family member. Number 6 is a personal illness or injury of your own. Number 7 is marriage. Number 8 is a dismissal from work. Number 9 is marital reconciliation. And number 10, get this, retirement. The top 10 most stressful life events that could cause you to have a serious illness. I see all the 2s in the chat, but guess what? I've been married for 20 years, 21 years in September. Been with my husband for 27 years, but 5 out of the 10 most stressful life events relates to marriage. Go figure. Listen, y'all didn't hear that from me, okay? But the reason why I bring that up is because when we're navigating clients, right, we're building our wealth portfolio, we're getting all the insurances in place for the what ifs. We're not thinking about these stressful life events that we all have that can derail that portfolio, that could derail that expansion of your business. I'm talking about you today. Now, I want to ask you, what does it look like if you have a stress-driven behavior in your daily life? What does it look like? I want you to be able to identify with this, not shame, not guilt. I want you to identify, because we know, like any of us, when we sit down with our clients, we want them to be aware of their current situation so they can move from it. So what does it look like? I want you to be authentic. Put a 3 in the chat if you have done this or you do this. If you avoid money conversations, if you avoid money conversations because you are so stressed out, you're avoiding it. Hey, how about you emotionally spend after you've had a tough day? I'll put a 3 in the chat. Where's my thing right here? Put me a 3, okay? That you emotionally spend or emotionally eat after a tough day. Okay. All right. How about hoarding money because you're afraid to invest and lose it? You just got to sit right there, the check-in savings money market. You're hoarding money because you're afraid to invest to lose it. Hey, what about you start these plans, you meet with your advisor, your CPA, all of these people that your fractional CFOs, all these people, but you create a plan and then you're not consistent with it. You fall off. Listen, this is not about shame or guilt. This is about authenticity. This is a safe space. Listen, I see the threes in the chat. Thank you for being honest. Listen, I want you to know and recognize what it looks like when you have these stress-driven behaviors as it relates to money. Now, listen, I am not a financial therapist. I am not a social worker. I am not a licensed professional counselor, but I have been through some things in my life. I had to take accountability. I had to heal from some of the past traumas. And I also had to move forward in my business as an entrepreneur. And what it takes is awareness. So this is all about you being aware of some of the stress-driven behaviors that you participate in because maybe you're trying to cope. Maybe there's some things that are left over from your youth and you're just realizing how it's showing up today. I want to be that person to let you know it's okay. It is okay because you're in spaces like this where we can learn and grow together. So we just talked about what it looks like when you are making stress-driven decisions. But how about I leave you with a couple of tips to let you know how to move forward from that. Number one, and I say this in a way where you know how people say, oh, managing money, it isn't hard, right? Because it's a life skill. We teach people these life skills of money management every day. But it doesn't mean just because it's simple that it's easy. There's a difference. I'm going to give you 5 simple tips, but it doesn't mean that it's easy. Listen. So one is to automate. I want you to automate your financial decisions as often as possible. If you're able to have a certain amount that goes directly from your checking to your savings, when you get those sales opportunities, automate that. That saves you from you. It saves you from making emotional decisions, right? When you're able to automate, that means that regardless of what you're feeling like, your money is still doing what it was set to do. So automate, number one. Number two, have yourself or prioritize your emergency savings. We all want big, robust portfolios, but I want you to make sure that you have at least your 3 to 6 months of expenses stocked away because that is your nervous system support. Somebody put nervous system support in the chat. I want to see how you're going to prioritize your emergency savings as your nervous system support. Because what happens? The tire blows, the printer busts at the office, all kinds of things. And you want to make sure that regardless, you have those money. I see the nervous system supports over there. So we talked about automating to protect you from you, right? Number two, emergency savings, 3 to 6 months stocked away regardless. And number three, I want you to look at it. I want you to look at your numbers, not just when you're triggered, not just when you're afraid. I want you to look at your numbers and have yourself a money date regularly, whether that's once a week, once every 2 weeks. I want you to look at it, not just when you're triggered or stressed, but routinely. I want you to know what's going on. And number four, I want you to pay attention to the triggers. Awareness is everything. I guarantee if you pick any random 30-day cycle in your bank account, and you will be able to look through, you can see, oh, that's when I was going through a divorce. Oh, that's when I was stressed out about that new employee. Oh, that's when the kids was going to college and getting on my nerves. Listen, you will be able to see in your bank statements, in your credit card statements, what you may have been triggered by and trying to cope with. Listen, number four was pay attention to your triggers. And my last one for you before I head on out is that I want you to be able to define wealth the way you define it. I had a realization when I was talking to my husband about how hard it was. I had a realization back in November. And instead of continuing to say how hard it was, I began to say what wealth was to me. And wealth to me is peace, ease, and joy. Wealth to me is peace, ease, and joy. How I live my life, how I'm showing up for my family, how I'm showing up for others. That to me is wealth. So I want you to, number 5, define it for yourself. So I just want to encourage you all. I know that your financial behaviors, you might not have thought about it in this type of way, but your financial behaviors will make sense once you understand how stress is related to it. And I am Dr. Constance Craig Mason. I want to encourage you to live the life you want without worrying about money. That is my motto. Live the life you want without worrying about money. If any of this resonated with you, I encourage you to follow me on social media. My name @C. Craig Mason. My nonprofit page is Money Talks Movement. And I would be glad to have a conversation with you ongoing. Thank you all for the time, and I'll stick around for any questions.
All right, Constance. Wow. Again, you kept the fire going. You kept the energy going. And I love, even when you started and finished, you were very engaging. I loved it. I love engagement.
Thank you.
It was surprising that one of your, or number 10 for your stressful situation was retirement. So kind of share real quick about that being on that list of stress.
Absolutely. The top 10 were mostly related to marriage and then retirement. And I meet with boomers every day, and they have gone through a lot of these phases of paying off debt, saving for emergencies, building up portfolios. They've done all the work. And yet when they come and see me in this very office, they are still worried about retirement. They're worried about running out of money. They're worrying about, have I done the right things with my taxes? They're worried about the what ifs. Oh, what if I die too soon? What if I don't leave enough for my children's children? What if my spouse takes ill? Who's going to care for her or him? Like, these are the things that people who have 6 and 7 figures of assets in their portfolios, they are still stressed about retirement.
Wow. Again, that's a kind of an eye-opener, because when you talk about retirement, it seems like you're in that happy space and you're looking forward to it. But again, you just showed us that other side. It's like, okay, we need to really take a look at that so we won't be in that situation.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And you had a stress study, and I didn't get the other word, the Holmes and
Rahe, R-A-H-E, Holmes and R-A-H-E, Rahe.
Rahe, the Holmes and Rahe stress study.
Yeah,
I'm definitely going to be taking that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Then you gave some awesome tips of how to move forward tips. You gave 5 great ones. Again, automate your financial decisions. Yes. And some time ago, I started that. So again, it's on autopilot. So it just comes out, just like I pay my tithes, I pay myself.
Yes.
Prioritize those 3 to 6 months emergency support. Look at your numbers. Have a money date with yourself. I love that.
Yeah.
And pay attention to your triggers. And sometimes we don't know. We get triggered. We go out spending money on clothes, or we might go out and go to the restaurant and everything. We're spending money, these triggers. So it's so important to look back at that. And 5th one, you said, define wealth.
Absolutely.
What it means to you might be something different to you, and everybody's got something different.
Yes, sir.
Right. Well, you gave, again, some awesome information. I definitely want you to stick around. Again, we got some Q&A coming up. And for those in the chat, she was very engaging with the 1s and the 2s and everything. So if you enjoyed what you heard in the chat, put a 1 or put some fire emojis, put some heart emojis. Let's show some love to all these speakers here. And Dr. Constance Craig Mason, thank you, thank you, thank you.